Tale Stories Cottage, where all stories can be found.
Greedy but no great president. President Marin sat in a chair made of solid ivory, overlooking a city that trembled beneath his feet. He was a man of immense fortune, but his heart was a hollow vault that no amount of currency could fill. To him, the world was not a collection of people, but a ledger of assets to be seized. He spent his mornings counting the digits in his secret accounts, smiling at numbers that could feed nations, yet he refused to share even a crumb. Marin's obsession grew with every passing day. He spread giant maps across his mahogany desk, marking the veins of gold in the mountains and the pools of oil beneath the sea. "It is all mine," he whispered, his fingers tracing the borders of neighboring lands. He didn't care for the forests or the wildlife. He only saw the minerals and gems hidden in the earth, waiting to be extracted for his personal gain. When other nations refused to hand over their resources, Marin turned to threats. He stood before the world's cameras, his voice booming with the promise of destruction. "Support my vision or face my wrath," he declared. He began to divert the country's wealth away from schools and hospitals, spending it instead on iron machines of war, preparing to take by force what he could not take by greed. In the heart of the capital, a young girl named Alara watched the president's broadcast with a heavy heart. She saw the fear in her parents' eyes and the crumbling walls of her school. Alara knew that silence was no longer an option. She sat on her bedroom floor, painting a simple sign with bright, bold letters. "Our earth is not for sale." She was small, but her resolve was as steady as a mountain. Alara took her sign to the city square, and she was not alone. Thousands joined her, their voices rising like a gathering storm. They marched past the gilded gates of the palace, demanding an end to the corruption. Alara stood at the front of the line, her sign held high. The protest was not just a local event. Through the power of the internet, the whole world was watching and standing in solidarity. Inside the palace, Marin ordered his chief guard to disperse the crowds. He paced his office, demanding that the people be silenced by any means necessary. However, the guard stood still, looking out at the faces of his own neighbors and family members in the crowd. For the first time, the president's commands fell on deaf ears. The power he thought he held was slipping through his fingers like dry sand. The pressure became a tide that Marin could not swim against. The world's leaders froze his accounts, and his own cabinet turned their backs on him. With no money to pay his mercenaries and no support from the people, the great president was forced to sign his resignation. As he was escorted out of the palace, he passed Alara. She didn't look at him with hate, but with a profound sadness for a man who had lost his soul to gold. The transition was swift. The state confiscated Marin's vast treasures, the gold bars, the private jets, and the offshore millions. This wealth was returned to the people and used to heal the scars Marin had left behind. Alara watched as construction crews began to rebuild the hospitals and schools that had been neglected. The money that was once hoarded by one man was now flowing back into the veins of the nation. In the neighboring lands that Marin had threatened with war, the sound of machinery was replaced by the sound of planting. Thousands of trees were set into the ground where tanks were once meant to roll. Alara traveled to the border to help, handing a sapling to a young boy from the other side. They realized that without the greed of the man in the ivory chair, there were no enemies, only neighbors. Years passed, and the world forgot the name of the man who wanted to own it all. In a quiet corner of the city, an old man sat on a cold stone bench, his clothes tattered and his pockets empty. He watched people walk by, enjoying the parks and libraries his greed had unintentionally funded. Marin was alone, a ghost of his former self, learning the hardest lesson of all, that true greatness is measured by what you give, not what you take.
All right, that's the end of the story. From the story, we can get the morale.
Power did not remain forever. One individual cannot conquer the world just because its resources. Absolute power remain on people of the world. Please stop the war and bring peace.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Help us to build this channel by subscribe, like and share. See you in next story.